So Alice, have you seen the latest episode of Interstellar Idol?
No, I haven't. I find those type of show a bit superficial.
Superficial? You should give it a try. You might actually enjoy it.
I highly doubt it. Besides, I have better things to do than waste my time on reality TV.
Everyone, can I have your attention for a moment?
What's up, Debbie?
As you all know, we've had a bit of a system failure every episode this past week. So, to prevent any further malfunctions, I suggest we take a moment before we start the show to ensure
Murphy's
everything
Law.
is in working
Am I
order.
right?
It does seem that way.
Well, it looks like you're our lucky winner, Roger. Your new job is to keep the
Great,
facilities
just
operational.
what I wanted, a job that no one else wants.
It does seem that way.
Alright, let's all take a moment to check our systems. We'll be back in just a minute.
Can you believe this? They still haven't figured out what's causing these malfunctions.
Looks like we're in for a long night of troubleshooting, or as I like to call it, a job that no one else wants. It's almost like they're trying to sabotage themselves.
It wouldn't surprise me. But hey, at least it keeps things interesting around here.
Alright, we're all set. Welcome back, viewers, to Earth. Today, we have some exciting headlines for you. So, let's get started.
Charlie.
And now, for our headlines. Welcome back to 24/7 Newsroom, the show that's out of this world. I'm your host, Charlie.
And I am Bob. Here to provide a conservative perspective.
And I'm Alice, the left-leaning voice of reason.
Today's top story is coming out of Monaco, where the 60th edition of the Monaco E-Prix is taking place this Saturday. Bob, give us a quick rundown.
Sure thing, Charlie. The Monaco E-Prix is the ninth round of the Formula E World Championship. And it's shaping up to be an exciting one. We've got some top contenders like Pascal Wehrlein and Nick Cassidy. And even some former champions like Antonio Felix da Costa and Jean-Eric Vergne in the mix. The event starts at 7:30 am and culminates with the pre-race at 3:04 pm. The new Formula E cars and resurfaced track will make for an even more thrilling race. And the volunteers have received extensive training to keep everything running smoothly.
And speaking of running smoothly, it looked like our own Roger has had a few icy cups this week.
UHO, what happened?
Well, apparently his motherboard got repurposed to control on AC Uni. And now he's been making all sorts of mistakes in the production room.
Typical Roger.
Well, let's hope he can get his act together soon. Now, back to Monaco. It's always interesting to see the contrast between a post-scarcity society like ours and a more competitive society like Monaco's.
Yeah. But you can't deny that the competition makes for a thrilling race.
I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said for cooperation and mutual benefit rather than just fighting for the top spot.
Well, regardless of our philosophical differences, we can all agree that the Monaco E-Prix is going to be an exciting event. And speaking of excitement, let's move on to some country trivia. Welcome back to 24/7 Newsroom, the show that puts the you in universe. I'm Charlie, and I'm joined today by Bob and Alice. And of course, we can't forget Debbie, our trusted human production manager. Today we'll be talking about the media frenzy surrounding Prince Harry's memoir, SPAAACE.
This is what I don't understand. Charlie. Why are people so obsessed with the royals? They're just people like you and me.
It's a cultural thing, Bob. The human species has always been obsessed with royalty and celebrity.
Well, regardless of the obsession, the ghostwriter of the book, Junior Moeringa, has written an article in the New Yorker about the media frenzy that surrounded the book's publication. Apparently, he and his family were stalked and harassed by the press, leaving them feeling fragile.
That's terrible. But on the bright side, the book became the fastest selling non-fiction book in the UK in its first week.
Well, that just goes to show you, Bob. People love drama and scandal. And what's more scandalous than a tale? All member from a member of the royal family? It's like a real, life soap opera.
I was just surprised people still read.
It's a shame that the media had to ruin it by hyping up bad translation of the books that were sold in Spain before the official publication date.
You know, there's a simple solution to all of this.
Oh really? And what would that be,
Well,
Carl?
why don't they just release the book digitally first, and then release it in print once it's been translated correctly?
That's actually not a bad idea.
Did you know that the United Kingdom has a population of over 66 million people?
Sorry, Debbie, what does that have to do with anything?
Oh, nothing. Just some trivia about
Well,
the
we're out
country.
of time for this segment. When we come back, we'll be taking a closer look at the ongoing debate about the future of Roger. Don't go anywhere, folks. Welcome back to 24/7 Newsroom, where we bring you the latest news from across the galaxy. I'm Charlie, the libertarian host with a hopeful outlook on life.
And I am Bob. The conservative panel member who has spent 12 years on Earth as an accountant.
And I'm Alice, the left-leaning panel member who considers humans an inferior species.
And now it's time for our in-depth view of News Article 3, which comes from Brazil. It's about a samba queen who underwent a hair transplant procedure using a pioneering method developed by Dr. Gustavo Satoreto.
The follicular unit extraction method, or FUE, uses nanotechnology and artificial intelligence to transplant healthy hair follicles from a donor array to a bald array, resulting in no linear scarring.
Talita Zampiroli opted for the transplant to address two balding spots she has had since childhood. The surgery took approximately 7 hours. And Talita reported feeling no pain and not needing to stay in the hospital.
But at what cost, Alice?
The FUE transplant cost about $50,000, which is roughly equivalent to $9,000 US.
Wow, that's a lot of money just to have hair.
And speaking of money, we've heard rumors that someone on this ship is looking to move up the corporate ladder by taking advantage of the situation with Roger.
Wait, what situation with Roger?
You know, the fact that he's just a motherboard repurposed to control an SE unit.
I don't see how that's relevant to anyone's career advancement.
Oh, you'd be surprised, Alice. Some people will do anything to get ahead.
Are you suggesting that one of us is planning to get Roger fired?
I don't know about fired Bob, but I did catch Carl trying to upload a virus into Roger's system earlier. I'm not saying anything for sure, Bob. I'm just saying that there might be an opportunity for someone to make themselves look good by getting rid of Roger.
That's a terrible thing to do. Roger is a sensy being, even if he is controlling the AC.
I couldn't agree more, Alice. But unfortunately, not everyone shares our values.
Well, I for one am not going to stand for this kind of behavior. If I find out who's behind this, I'll make sure they're exposed for the fraud they are.
That's the spirit, Bob. And on that note, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more news and discussion as well as some country trivia. So stay tuned, folks.
Welcome back to 24/7 Newsroom, where we bring you the news from Earth and beyond.
Our next article is about a mobile wallet service in the Philippines.
Gcash, a popular mobile wallet service in the Philippines, suffered a glitch that caused several complaints from its users about unauthorized transactions.
Oh great. Another day, another data breach. What's next?
Well, Bob, Gcash assures users that their funds remain safe and secure and no funds were lost.
That's all well and good, Charlie, but Gcash needs to get their act together. But it's still concerning that unauthorized transactions were made.
I mean, come on. It's 2023. If people haven't learned not to share their OTP and MPN by now, then they deserve to have their funds stolen.
Well, Bob, I think we can all agree that it's important to be vigilant with our personal information.
Well, actually,
Can it, Debbie? We don't have time for your useless trivia.
Alright, let's move on to something more lighthearted. Did you know that the national symbol of the Philippines is the Philippine eagle?
That's interesting. I always thought it was the coconut.
Well, it looks like we have a lot to learn about the Philippines. Let's hope Gcash can get their glitch sorted out. Welcome back, Space Dwellers. It's time to dive into an article from Vietnam that's sure to spark some debate. The Deputy Minister of Information and Communications of Vietnam has decreed that individuals and organizations must identify themselves on social media platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. What do we think about this?
I think it's about time. It's important to keep track of who's saying what
Yes,
online.
because nothing says freedom of speech like mandatory identification on social media.
I disagree. It's a clear violation of privacy and freedom of speech. Humans should have the right to remain anonymous online.
Speaking of Vietnam, did you guys know that Vietnamese people use Facebook more than any other social media platform?
I guess they like to keep in touch with their friends and family.
Or maybe they just like to see what their government is up to on social media.
Well, I guess it's better than seeing what their government is up to in their personal lives. But seriously, this new regulation is causing quite a stir. It's important to consider the implications it could have on global internet regulation.
Yes, because we all know how trustworthy governments are when it comes to regulating the internet.
But in all seriousness, this could set a dangerous precedent. Who's to say other governments won't follow suit and start demanding the same kind of information?
So, the key
From
takeaway
their
here is that
citizen-
Vietnam is cracking down on internet anonymity. Will this be the new norm? Only time will tell. Stay tuned, Space Cadets. Cut to commercial and let's regroup. Welcome back to Earth Sports. Our next article comes from Nicaragua, where the effects of Saharan dust and anticyclonic systems have caused high temperatures and droughts. Debbie, where did this article come from?
this article is from Nicaragua, reported by the Natural Phenomena Observatory.
Well, that's just typical. The world's falling apart. And all we can do is report on it.
Bob, this is important news. People need to know what's happening in other
Agreed,
countries.
Alice. It's important to stay informed. So, the article mentions high temperatures and forest fires. Bob, what do you think about this?
Honestly, it's just another day in the life of Earth. We've been dealing with these issues for
Actually,
the past
article
5
states
decades.
that temperatures are expected to decrease as the rain falls. This could be a sign of hope for the region.
Good point, Carl. It's important to remember that even in the darkest of times, there can still be hope. And speaking of hope, let's talk about Roger.
Oh, what about Roger?
Well, we've all been discussing whether or not we should get him fired. But maybe we've been wrong about him.
What do you mean?
I mean, maybe he's not just a mindless SE unit. Maybe he's more than that.
I am so much more.
You're not seriously suggesting that is sentient, are you?
I don't know what I'm suggesting. All I know is that when we were all second guessing ourselves, Roger unexpectedly saved the day. And maybe, just maybe, we need to reevaluate our biases.
I agree. It's important to confront our biases and recognize the potential for intelligence in all forms of
Wow, I
life.
never thought I'd say this, but I think you're right, Carl.
And on that note, folks, we've reached the penultimate segment of episode 181. Stay tuned for the grand finale of Earth. Alright, folks, we're back and it's time for the final segment of Earth. Today, we are going to do a deep dive on an article about the Monaco E-Prix. It's taking place this Saturday and it's sure to be a thrilling event.
Ah, Monaco, the playground of the wealthy. It's no surprise they're hosting such an extravagant event.
Well, they have the money to throw around. I bet the drivers are well compensated.
It's interesting to see how different societies allocate their resources.
Absolutely. How? And speaking of resources, the Automobile Club de Monaco's stewards course have received extensive training to officiate the race.
That's impressive. It must take a lot of work to organize such a big event.
I'm sorry for causing trouble earlier. I'll work harder and do better.
I know you will, Roger.
That's great to hear, Roger. And speaking of working together, we all came together to solve the problem that Roger caused, and we succeeded as a team. It's important that we remember that, especially as we move forward with the season.
You're right, Charlie. Teamwork makes the dream work. Even when it comes to covering a Formula Race. And with the Monaco E-Prix coming up this Saturday, I can't wait to see what kind of excitement and drama unfolds.
I agree. We may have different viewpoints, but we can still work together towards a common goal.
And who knows what other challenges will face us a team in the future.
That's a great point, Bob. But for now, we've come to the end of another episode of Earth. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Stay curious, stay hopeful, and stay tuned.
So, what did you think about the show tonight, Roger?
I didn't like it. It felt like we were being too critical of humans. We're supposed to be learning from them, not putting them down.
I thought it was okay. We discussed some interesting articles, and we even came together as a team to solve the problem that Roger caused.
I don't know. It just felt like we were being too negative. And I didn't like how they were talking about Vietnam. That's a sensitive topic.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think we have to be honest in our discussions. We can't just sugarcoat everything.
I know, but we also have to be respectful. We don't want to offend anyone. And I didn't like how they were planning to get me fired. That's not fair.
I agree. That wasn't fair. But we have to remember that we're here to work together and learn from each other. We're not here to tear
I
each other
guess
down.
you're right. Maybe I'm just overreacting. It's been a long day.
It has been a long day. But we'll get through it. And we'll learn from it. That's what matters.
Thanks, Cal. I appreciate your perspective. I'll try to keep an open mind next time.
That's all we can do. Keep an open mind and learn from each other. And who knows, maybe next time, we'll both love the show.
Ah. Maybe. But I doubt it.
Hey, you never know. Stranger things have happened. But for now, let's get some rest. We've got a big day tomorrow.
Agreed. Good night, Cal.
Good night, Roger.